Hey Baylor fans, this is your call to gear up with Harley-Davidson of Waco. Whether you're hitting the open road or tailgating at McLean Stadium, we've got the ride to match your Bear pride. Check out our wide selection of new and pre-owned motorcycles, visit our service department, or shop all the latest gear and accessories to show off your Baylor spirit and Harley pride. Visit us today and find your freedom on two wheels. Harley-Davidson of Waco, where Baylor fans never ride alone. Visit in-store or at hdwaco.com. Sic Em Bears.
Welcome into the Sic Em Podcast presented by Harley-Davidson of Waco. It's going to be a fun time today visiting with former Baylor linebacker, former Big 12 champion, all Big 12 conference linebacker, Eddie Lackey is with us today. Eddie, we appreciate your time. Thanks for being on with us.
Yes, J-Mo, thank you so much for having me. This is a good time. I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to digging into some stuff today.
Very cool. Look forward to visiting with you. It's always great to see you. Let me go back. Notice this, and I don't think I knew this previously, but you were born in Turkey. What's the story there?
Yeah, so my dad was military. He was in the Air Force, so we moved around quite a bit when I was a kid. And it's funny because I'm naturally, I feel like, more of an introvert. People probably think that's kind of crazy. Just in social settings, I'm the one talking to people all the time and sparking conversations. But I had to figure it out at a pretty young age that if I wasn't going to start talking to people, then I was never going to have any friends, because we moved every couple of years. So, But we were only there for 6 months, so I don't remember a thing from Turkey. But yeah, Adana, Turkey, on a Incirlik Air Force Base, and we moved to Montana from there. Then moved to Ohio for that was about 5 or 6 years. And then my dad retired in Southern California. So military brat, grew up around that my whole life.
So you had a few moves, but not as many as some people. I mean, some people moved 10 or 12 times, right? Military.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we were blessed with not having to move every 2 years or something. I think I got to know a couple people pretty closely just within a couple year window, and then it's like, well, my dad got orders and we're heading out. So
moving out.
We were blessed. I was able to, establish a friend group, and I've got friends all over the country.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So California, kind of settled there. High school, California. Was that in Murrieta? Is that right? Murrieta High School?
Yes.
Or Murrieta?
Vista Murrieta High School.
Vista Murrieta. That's what it was. Out of high school, what was recruiting like? You ended up at Riverside Community College. What was the recruiting process like?
So I was undersized, even at Baylor, I would consider myself undersized at that position. And the game's developed so much since 2010 when I graduated high school. But at that point, they were still kind of looking for the 6'1", 6'2", 230-pound linebackers. And I wasn't that by any means. So my high school coaches always said that I was going to be a safety in college. And so they moved me back there my senior year. And to be honest, I didn't have the hips for safety. I didn't have those the hip movements and flipping 180 degrees and I can plant my foot in the ground and all that good stuff and get lateral, but flipping my hips, in the secondary just wasn't really what I was best at. And so I wasn't the, D1 caliber. And I think a lot of coaches would come in, they'd give me a quick look, but they'd be like, he's ready for D2 or D3. So I only had D2 schools, recruit me for the last part of my recruitment period, and ended up getting a scholarship to go to a place called Northwood University in Midland, Michigan, in middle of nowhere. And it was an interesting experience. I was basically told I could play whatever position I wanted. And, they put me in at kick returner. I think I played a little bit of punt returner. I played safety. They threw me down at linebacker at times. If I wanted to play running back, I probably could have, but it was a little different. But I still had this itch that I really wanted to play Division I. I wanted to, make that dream a reality still, and I felt like I could still do it. And I just didn't have a great overall experience, at that school. And so ended up going back home and, home for me, Marietta, California, and just commuted every day to Riverside City College. And,
Hmm.
to tie things back around, which is kind of a bizarre story considering where we are right now. And I've told this story before, but Coach Aranda was actually the first coach to give me a Division I offer, because
Wow.
I think
How
he
about
was,
that?
like assistant defense coordinator and linebackers coach at Hawaii.
Okay.
And so he reached out, and I thought he was kind of blowing smoke at first in high school, because he was like, man, bro, he really had this like Hawaii kind of vibe going, like, yeah, bro,
Right.
I really wish we would have saw you sooner, but we're out of scholarships, bro, and best of luck to you. And I was like, yeah, I bet he wouldn't have offered me, and even if he saw. And so anyways, he offered me before I ever played it down at RCC, Riverside City College. And yeah, long story short, Coach Gush and Coach Bennett got into the picture and started recruiting me pretty heavily towards the end of the season, and ended up committing to Baylor on my official visit, which was actually when uh, Baylor played Texas, and that was like one of the solidifying moments for Robert, getting the Heisman and
Right.
just some big plays in that game, and just what an atmosphere. I loved it. It was a great time, and I wish, yeah, I think that was one of the best experiences I ever had. And I didn't go on any other official visits. I was committed to Hawaii that whole season, and I still just said, you know what, this is home for me.
Wow. Yeah.
They've got the values I believe in from a Christian standpoint, and I really see myself growing in all walks of life. And I've always been intrigued about being in Texas too, so it just
Hmm.
kind of worked out, and the rest was history from there.
Man, what a great story. That's so cool. You didn't really have any ties to Baylor or any ties to
No,
the state of Texas.
no,
But look how it turned out.
yeah.
In that God's plan, that you
Yeah,
ended up
that
there.
is. You
Yeah.
are correct about that. And from a faith standpoint, I can't tell you how incredible that was for my journey. I think that, just from a testimony standpoint, I think I was a little lost at that point in my life. And to get involved with FCA at Baylor with Wes Erie, and a
Mhm.
lot of great people in that organization. And uh, getting involved with that was probably one of the biggest turning points in my life for my faith. And then meeting my wife was probably maybe a step above that, though. Her standards are, pretty high, and she helped me a ton in my walk with the Lord. So I think if there's, as far as the most important thing that I got out of being at Baylor was, just establishing my faith and my relationship with the Lord. So pretty cool.
Terrific. That's what
Yeah.
Baylor's all about. And
Yeah.
you're a great success story in that area and on the field. You came in, hit the ground running. So only here 2 years, 2012, 2013. What was it like stepping up to that D1 level and not just kind of easing your way in, but man, you stepped in and you were a contributor from day one.
Yeah. Yeah. Coach Bennett and Coach Gush told me, hey, we want you to come in and play middle. I think Elliot Coffey was leaving. It was his senior year that year. They were recruiting me, and they were looking for an immediate impact kind of guy. So that's why they were recruiting the junior college ranks. And
Hmm.
and so that was what they were recruiting me for. I was like middle linebacker at the next level at a Power Five conference. I was excited, but I was like, we're gonna see if this is gonna work. And they ended up moving me over to the weak side linebacker, and then Bryce Hager was the middle, and we were actually competing at first for the middle spot. And
Oh,
they were like,
really? Yeah.
"What are we doing? Why don't we just play both of you guys? You seem like you fit more on the outside,
Yeah.
Eddie, and Bryce, you're the interior type of guy." So it just worked out perfect. But as far as like jumping into things, I mean, there's nothing like jumping into a practice and playing the number one offense in the country. So there's no preparing. Like, I don't think you can prepare anybody for that. Just whether you're a junior college guy and a little bit more developed, or just coming out of high school, it was pretty wild. So I'd
Yeah.
never faced an offense like that. My head was spinning already trying to understand this new defense and where I needed to be. So I think every single person, including, athletic training staff, I mean, you name anybody affiliated that was on the field knew my name, not for a good reason. They always knew because it was like, Eddie, Eddie, because
That's funny.
I had to figure it out, but it was hard because I had to figure it out against such a great offense. And so since I was thrown right into being with the ones, it was a little bit of a tough, learning curve. And, I don't think I figured it out really until we got a little bit into the season, that first year. And
Wow.
I think that there was a lot that I did well, but there was probably a lot more that I didn't do so well that first year. And
That's
I
funny.
think that's where I appreciate just where coaches fall into development and how important that is. And it's not to say that I didn't have good coaches growing up. I just think, the all the details and all the film study, everything that comes together, they're so meticulous on coaching certain things, where your key reads are, your steps. I think I never thought about losing steps, when you're starting to play. I
Mm,
would do this little hop to start. And they're like, "What are you
mm,
doing? Why are you hopping?
mm.
Why are you taking a false step?" And I would take a step backwards. That was one of the first things Coach Gush and Coach Bennett wanted to fix with my bad habits, I guess, initially. So there was a lot to learn, and then you throw, like I said, the defense in there that I played a different kind of defense kind of all the way until that point. So it was and I didn't mention this, but that transition, I feel like when I left Northwood University, I think I had to acknowledge safety wasn't necessarily like my natural position. So when I went back to junior college, I said, I know that my natural ability fits with being down there towards the line of scrimmage, at linebacker, blitzing and playing the coverages on running backs and maybe a couple inside receivers. But it just made a lot more sense. And I think that once I fully committed to that, I think that's where I knew I needed to be, and
Yeah,
that's when I started getting recruited. So yeah,
that's
it
terrific.
was a journey.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great contributor for those 2 years. One of the things I think about when I think about you is in 2012 when Kansas State came in and they were ranked number one in the BCS. And I remember, I love telling this story, but on Monday of that week, I was going to leave part of the week for a basketball tournament. So I got the pregame with Coach Briles on Monday. And he looks me in the eyes. This is K-State coming in, led by Colin Klein. I mean, really good. And he says,
Yeah,
"We're going to beat Kansas State." And I said, "Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, sounds good." No, he repeats it. "We're going to beat Kansas State." And I said, "All right."
yeah,
It was like
yeah,
the resolve in his voice was, "There's no question." Did you
yeah.
guys feel that week? And then
Oh
you
yeah.
went out and you played like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was just a different energy, and it's weird to say that coming off of four straight losses, and just a terrible start, and we're just, for whatever reason, we were fully convinced that this was our game to lose. But I don't think that word lose was like even in our vocabulary that week. I think that a lot of stuff was starting to come together. Speaking from the defensive standpoint, there was just a lot of stuff that we were trying to figure out. We had quite a few junior college guys, we had just new guys, and still learning a relatively new defense to
Mhm.
to Baylor's scheme. And I think I feel like, was it Oklahoma that we played the week before? Couldn't remember if it was
I
Oklahoma
I don't know. I'd have
or,
to look.
so whatever game it was before that. I think it was Oklahoma. We really were starting to come around then. And I think after that film study and getting the game plan going into Kansas State, there's just not a doubt in our mind that we could beat those guys.
Yeah.
We've got in our locker room, we've got the Sports Illustrated, with Colin Klein on the
You're right.
cover of it, and front runner for the Heisman. And
Yeah.
it just I think that there's a lot of motivation in that week. And obviously our offense was going to come out firing. I don't think anybody ever had to worry about our offense. Our offense was fantastic. So it was more about us. It was about the defense. And I think that we finally turned a corner with understanding the schematics of our defense, understanding like what are these mental errors that we are making every game? And I think that we had to just draw a line in the sand and say, hey, there's no turning back. And I think from that point on, there there was a pretty long run of us just almost running the table, and
Yeah.
just we did a really good job from that point. So but that game was probably the time of my life. I'll remember that for forever.
Yeah.
I think I immediately, I know it sounds cheesy, but I remember going right back, after the game, after getting changed, and went right back to the house, and just with all my roommates, we sat there and just watched the TV copy. And
Nice.
because we were all just like, this is bizarre. We just beat the number one team in the country, and it's not going to stop here. We've got to keep this going. So it was just a good time, and times that I'll remember forever.
Very cool. How about that goal line stand part of that win? I mean, it was dominating win, really, but there was that goal line stand. You were a big part of that.
Yeah, that was I feel like that was the biggest statement, from a defensive standpoint, maybe for the game. But I think a lot of people remember that. There's a lot of great pictures of us coming out of making that tackle and just, that fourth down stop. But everybody was contributing on that, and we couldn't have had a fourth down stop like that if everybody didn't hit their fit. And I've talked about this in film room before, but goal line defense, you don't have any room for error. And I think that's just a testament to what I was saying, is guys weren't making those same mental errors that game. It wasn't a mistake-free game, but in those big moments, we were showing up. And I think, you roll back the tape, every guy is hitting their fit. Colin Klein was what,
Big guy.
6'7", six
Yeah,
six
big
or
guy.
something like
Right.
that. So
Right.
he's not an easy guy to take down.
Yeah.
And we it just worked out. I mean, we really we timed it just right as far as fitting those gaps on that last play. And I know Hager had a big third down stop, and I think I just scraped across the formation, just finding the open gap, and that was where Colin Klein tried to lower his head down and get in, but we ended up getting him. So it was awesome. Loved it.
So huge win over Kansas State, part of a late season surge by you guys. I remember at one point during the 2012 season thinking, oh, bowl string's going to end. Yeah, it was fun while it lasted,
Yeah.
But you guys with
Yeah.
that late season run ended up in the Holiday Bowl and ended
Mhm.
on a real, playing your best football down the stretch in November.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly, after that game, after Kansas State, we really, that confidence just kind of built on itself. And it doesn't mean that we were perfect. I think that there's still a ton of mistakes that were happening. I mean, you look at the point totals on those games, and it wasn't perfect by any means, but we didn't need to be perfect. We had such a fast and high powered offense that we knew they were going to score. We needed to make one more stop than the other defense, and that's not really shooting for the stars. And I don't think that was our mentality, but it was absolutely just a confidence that we had coming out of that game. And just a really cool way to finish out the year. And we had such a incredible team. Our guys were so talented, and I feel like I probably speak for the defense that year. We were kind of holding it back a little bit. I think that there was a lot that, like I said, we were trying to figure out and adjust and learn and not let the same mistakes continue to happen. And eventually it just kind of started to come around. So I think to get to that bowl game, which, just a funny thing for me, because I grew up just an hour north of San Diego. Holiday Bowl is near and dear to my heart. I think I'd been to the Holiday Bowl just to see, I think it was like Nebraska one year, and forget who they played. And my best friend in high school actually played linebacker for UCLA. And so the odds of us somehow facing each other were
Right.
just like the small, I'm not an odds maker, but I don't even know what the odds would be for something like that to happen. And he has like the exact same story as me. He went through RCC. He was an undersized guy, same kind of story. So it's just funny how that all ended up happening, and we ended up playing against each other. So just a special way to finish out the year.
All right, so that brings up a really good question. When you and him talk, what's the final score of that game? Have y'all decided on what the final score was?
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
he even wants to talk about it, but
yeah,
we
yeah,
all know
probably
what it
true.
is. We all know
Exactly.
what it is, and I think he wouldn't argue.
Right.
It's pretty obvious. You go back to the tape, it's pretty obvious. But yeah,
Oh,
he's pretty reasonable. But you ask another player on his team, I'm sure they're gonna give him those last 6 points or whatever they got. So
that's probably true. Wow, great.
yeah.
All right, so out of 2012, going into 2013, what do you remember, like fall camp of 2013? You guys had to feel pretty confident, about what you could do that year.
Yeah. I mean, we were bringing back most of our guys. And I think knowing that, with the exception, I'm speaking from a defense standpoint. I know that we were losing Nick, which was big considering how big of a season he just came off of.
Yeah.
And, we there was obviously a question mark there, but obviously Bryce was fantastic, coming in and winning two Big 12 championships in a row. I mean, I'd say we were in good hands too. So we've just we had this confidence still, going into camp and knowing that we had guys coming back, knowing that we understood the scheme that we were running at Baylor. And I think just the off-season preparation and there's a lot of extra stuff that we were doing. I feel like that was fun for us. It was like we're just going just as a linebackers group. We're like, hey, y'all just want to go and do some drills and just kind of mess around, throw the football around. I mean,
Yeah.
we would go and do just casual stuff and just that camaraderie was continuing to build. And I think the team chemistry, the culture, and just the overall environment that we had for the team. I think every time you know, I think from the start of off season that year, every time we broke out, no matter if it was three guys, two guys, or the whole team, it was always 1, 2, 3 Big 12 champs. And
Nice.
so we were shooting for the stars with that season, and I think it, it was a confidence thing because we all understood our defense. We understood that we had so much coming back and a lot of playmakers. So
Yeah.
yeah, that offseason was exciting.
And Baylor was going well then, and the offense was, point a minute offense. But Baylor never won a championship until Coach Bennett got there, and the defense, was complementary to what the offense was doing.
Yeah.
And I think the defense deserves a lot of credit, for those
Yeah.
back-to-back Big 12 championships.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that sometimes people will give Bennett a hard time, and I'm like, man, if you go back to the statistics and just the progress that he had in that time that he was at Baylor, I think there's no denying it. And I think we live in such a society where people want just immediate results, and just the reality of it is, I mean, you heard me talking about it just a minute ago. Just you got guys like me that I've still got to figure this out. And that's part of the coach's role. I understand that, but I think it was it just we needed a little bit of time. And I think it finally came together, and Bennett and Gush and all of our defensive staff were just uh, nitpicking at the smallest of things to
Yeah.
get us where we needed to be. And it made it a lot of fun in the long run, but it was a beating while you're going through it. It wasn't fun to hear my name in the way that it was being said all the time. Eddie, what are you doing? And I know Bryce the same way. I think that there's a lot of guys that felt that way, but that's kind of coach that they were, as far as Bennett and Gush. And they're going to ride you, and they're going to get after you, but they're also going to be the same people that are walking on the sideline with you after practice or after a game, and just asking you how your family's doing, telling you they love you, and just they genuinely care about their guys. So I think there was a bigger picture going on there, and I think it took a certain kind of individual to understand that, and we had a crew of guys that understood the way that they coached, and they got us to a championship level.
Yeah. Let me, I'm skipping over a lot, but go to December of 2013, Texas coming to Waco, Floyd Casey Stadium. So much riding on that game. I mean, so much involved in that game. If you win, you're Big 12 champs. It's the last game. It's turning out the lights at Floyd Casey Stadium, all of that.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the buildup going into that game?
Yeah. I think we all knew what was on the table there. We understood that we had that huge opportunity to go out and win the Big 12. And I'll never forget standing at the end of the tunnel before we were about to come out. And it was senior day, so we were kind of all going out individually. But I remember there was this fan. He was right behind us in the tunnel, not in it, but in the stands. And Browse is right next to me, and the guy yells from the stands, who had to win for us to get in? I can't remember if Oklahoma State I think it was Oklahoma beat Oklahoma State, right?
I think that's right. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
So whatever way it had to happen, it happened. And
right.
I just remember Browse turning over to me and is like, let's go win a Big 12 championship. And then it was like something out of a movie, because that was when they called my name and I ran out onto the field for senior day. And it was like, this is pretty crazy. So but the buildup, it wasn't that things just like were dramatically different in the locker room. I think that we were so locked in that year that we understood that, we felt like, again, it was ours to lose. That Big 12 championship was ours to lose. And I think that cold weather was definitely interesting. I think I got a little bit of a hard time for wearing long sleeves that game as a linebacker. You're supposed to be this macho tough guy, and it's like, nah, I'm wearing some long sleeves, I'm wearing tights, and I'm wearing a trench coat on the sideline whenever I get
you're
off.
smart.
So it was definitely the coldest game I've ever played in, and I played football in Michigan, so it was pretty cold up there. It still wasn't as cold as that game, I feel like. So but the stakes, you couldn't have drawn it up any better. And then for the way that things ended that night, they wheeled the trailer, like the platform, out there in the middle of the field, and we're lifting up the Big 12 championship trophy and turning off the lights. Like you can't make a movie any better than that. I think that it was special, and just a testament to all the work that we put in before that, and a lot of stuff had to come together, and fortunately it did for us. So didn't play so great in the Fiesta Bowl, but I think we're really proud of where we ended up and how we finished that season, as far as in conference play.
Yeah, close the case. Very memorable. Baylor moves to McLean Stadium the next year. You'd already moved on, but you do have a pretty memorable moment at McLean Stadium, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. Yeah. So I actually proposed to my wife, then girlfriend, at the 50-yard. And I know that there's some other cats out there, but I'm pretty certain I was the first one, to do that. But I remember making this whole grand plan of, like, we basically made different stops along the river, meeting with different friends of ours, and they would tell us kind of a special story about, our relationship, or like how we made an impact on their lives. And so we made different stops at, like, the suspension bridge and, like, the Martin Luther King little platform there, and what is it called, in Cameron Park, Lover's Leap.
Yes.
We even rode a moped up there. It was a very extravagant thing. So
wow.
And then the last thing was walking over the bridge, and we had like an arch at the middle of the field. I had my helmet, with the ring inside of it. I had it all planned out. So
Look
as soon as I was asking her, I grabbed the ring out of the helmet, inside the helmet, and then asked her to marry me. But we also had this little slideshow and, like, our songs and everything, not to get all sappy and romantic, but it was such a special thing. So we can't go to McLean Stadium without thinking about that time.
What a great memory. That is so cool. And Cassidy is your wife, and y'all have 3 kids now, living back or living in Abilene. Yeah.
Yes. So we've got our oldest is a girl. She's 5. We've got a 3-year-old boy, and we've got a 6-month-old boy. So it's Tenley, Pierce, and Bennett. And I know you're
Okay.
thinking, "Hey, Bennett." We actually did name our kid Bennett after Coach Bennett. So,
Oh, that's
you know,
fantastic. I
he
love
was a
that,
huge impact on both of us, and I think
man.
just even from a mentorship for me, he had that big of an impact on my life, and it was a fun phone call to give him a call and say, "Hey, just wanted to let you know we wanted to honor you, and hopefully, you know, I want you to meet him someday, but we're gonna name our son Bennett." So he was so excited, over the moon. He kind of like went away from the phone. He was, you know, yelling to his wife like, "They're naming their son after
How
me."
about
So
that?
it was a special moment.
That is so great. Well,
Yeah,
we look forward to having you and your group here with us for the reunion, November 1st, November 2nd. That's going to be a lot of fun for you guys. I mean, y'all done a good
absolutely.
job of staying together, but this is an
Yeah,
official kind of reunion celebration. 10
yeah.
years after the 14 championship, but then
Hmm.
the 13 championship also.
Yep.
That's going to be a fun weekend for you guys.
Oh man, yeah, and they're doing such a great job, you know, as far as the organization of this. Jovan and Coach Wetzel and just the whole staff that's putting this, you know, this whole celebration together. It's incredible. So they're putting a lot of thought into it. Getting to run the Baylor line, I've never thought I'd get a chance, but the fact that we're going to get to run the Baylor line is pretty bizarre. So I'm excited. I think that that's the best tradition in college sports, and it'll be pretty big that day. I think there's going to be a lot of us running it. A lot of pulled
Yeah.
hamstrings. We might need
Yeah.
we might need the training staff on the sideline to help us out a little bit, but in the cold tubs and all those things. But it's going to be great. We're excited, and everybody's really you know, getting fired up about it.
Can't wait. That's going to be cool. We'll have you and some of your group at a lunch with a legend on that
Yeah,
Friday. And then I know a reunion for you guys on Friday night and then the game on Saturday. So
yeah,
that'll be
yeah,
really cool. Can't wait. And we appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing with us
yeah.
today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me.